after this, the debaters on the other team may offer points of information to the speaker. Debaters might stand up when they offer points of information. The speaker who has the floor may choose to accept or decline the point when it is offered. At 7 minutes, the timekeeper will again signal once. And after this, no more point of information may be offered for the rest of the speech. At 8 minutes, the timekeeper will make a double signal like this. And after this, the speaker must conclude within a few seconds. There will be a short break at the end of each speech for the judges to complete their notes. After the 6 main speeches, each team will have the opportunity to make a 4-minute reply speech. This can be made by either the first or second speaker on each team. No points of information are allowed during reply speeches. The opposition will make their reply speech first, and after 3 minutes, the timekeeper will signal once to let the speaker know they have 1 minute left. After 4 minutes, the timekeeper will signal twice. And before the debate begins, I would like to remind you to switch off all mobile phones and anything else which might disturb the debaters. Should you need to leave or re-enter the room for any reason during the debate, please wait until the end of the speech to do so. Audience members should be aware that they may not participate in the main debate. There will be an opportunity to make comments after the judges have left the room at the end of the debate. And now I would like to introduce the judges for this debate. They are Vivian Sayer for the first team. He is the chair judge for today's debate. And then there is Melchizedek Babylonia from Philippines. And Jen Stafford from United States. As proposition for this debate, we have the team from Netherlands. The first speaker is Joop Family. The speaker is Frederick Houston. The third speaker is Sonia Melken. Their reply speech will be delivered by Joop Family. And in opposition, we have the team from Hong Kong. The first speaker is Keshav Menon. The second speaker is Sophie Shelley. And the third speaker is Yashafzan Mekra-Bardaloy. The speech will be delivered by Sophie Shelley. And it gives me a great pleasure to invite the first speaker for the proposition team to open the debate. Please welcome Joop.
Despite their explicit discrimination against women, the Roman Catholic Church receives $131 billion in tax exemptions each year from states all over the world. It is outrageous that institutions who refuse to acknowledge that women are equal and bar them from holding the positions closest to God receive tax exemptions. We give the Roman Catholic Church and other institutions that explicitly discriminate against women two options. Either they don't change their rules, which would lead to a cut of 35% of their income. In my first argument I will explain why this is the only morally just course of action for the state. Or they do change their rules and allow women to be ordained. In my second argument I will explain why then those women can fulfill their dreams and be respected. Let me be very clear about our strategy in this debate. We are not going to try to prove that all religious institutions will change. Merely that the ones that do not change, sit down, do not deserve tax exemptions. And the ones that do change benefit women in those communities. My second speaker, Frey, is going to bring our third argument about why the church and the government will continue to provide good works and service. But first, 2 points of context. No. One, what kind of taxes are we talking about? We're talking about income taxes and property taxes. Second point of context. The Roman Catholic Church spends 12% of our income on good works and services. We will use the money we normally spend on tax exemptions to facilitate good works and services, similar to the ones that the church is providing right now. So, onto my first argument. The state undermines its own legitimacy when it finances discrimination against women. Firstly, let's ask ourselves, what is a tax-exempt status? When you have tax-exempt status, you do not pay for the services the state provides you, and therefore the state pays the bill for you. That is, in essence, state funding, and therefore it is a privilege, not a right. Given that it's a privilege, the state can choose whom to support and whom not to support. And given that they can choose, we will argue that they should choose not to support discrimination against women. Why is equality between the sexes a fundamental principle every state should uphold? For two reasons. A, reciprocity. Women give up the exact same rights as men. They abide the same laws and pay the same taxes, and therefore deserve equal rights in return. It is illegitimate for the state to differentiate between men and women, just as we don't give them fewer votes, or don't treat them differently by law. And B, on choice. The state can never infringe on the freedom of its citizens for illegitimate reasons. In this case, it will be an illegitimate reason because A, women are not less capable than men are to read about the Word of God, to think about it, or to pray to Him. But B, because your gender is not a choice. Those women have never committed any sin to lose this freedom, and they cannot do anything to change this. All of this means that the state cannot discriminate against women, and therefore the money of the state cannot be used to fund this discriminatory privilege. You can't only allow male judges. You can't only allow male teachers in public schools, and you can't only allow male priests. But now they might be asking themselves, how about freedom of religion? Yes?
Following your principle, would you also be willing to use the coercive power of the state to prevent religion from discriminating against those who are gay, or those who have divorced, or those who seek abortion?
So, if there were to be a church who isn't willing to provide gay marriage, under our principle, we also wouldn't give them tax exemption. However, we do give them freedom of religion, we are just unwilling to fund that discrimination. Why do we still provide freedom of religion? Firstly, institutions can choose not to change and live without tax exemption. Secondly, note that freedom of religion is a passive right, not an active right. This means that the state has an obligation not to infringe on your thoughts and not to force you to believe in some God or whatever. But we do not have an obligation to pay for it. For example, we don't pay people to go to Mecca, even though the pilgrimage to Mecca is essential in Islam. And thirdly, they still have enough income left to practice their faith. Even though 35% may be a substantial cut to their income, the Roman Catholic Church would still have $243 billion left. That is more than the annual spending of the Dutch government, that hosts a lot of prayer meetings. In conclusion, the state cannot discriminate against women, and therefore religious institutions cannot use public funds to do so. Yes?
In the instances where much smaller churches will close down when they are forced to pay tax, in what way does that not mean you're restricting their freedom of religion?
Firstly, they can go to bigger churches. Secondly, we think that you can just have less expensive statues, right? Less expensive things. But thirdly, they can still believe what they want. We do not have an obligation to pay for those churches. That's exactly what I just explained. We are unwilling to fund their discrimination. That's the core of the case. We should have understood it. Second argument, female leaders will be respected. In this debate, there are three groups of religious communities. One, the progressive ones. We see this because half of all Christian churches already ordain women. Because in the United States, the United Kingdom and Canada, we already see female imams. And because conservative Judaism and Reform Judaism already ordain female rabbis. This shows that women want to be ordained. The second group of this debate are the super conservative ones. And this is a group that Team Opposition will want to talk about. But note that they're not going to change under either side of the house, which is fine, but we are the only team that is not funding their discrimination. And the third group is the middle group. Within this group, some communities might change their rules, and some won't. But if they choose to change their rules, female leaders will be respected for three reasons. Firstly, the church will vocally support female leaders. The church wants a link between a priest is the strongest link between the community and the church, between the community and the religion. And therefore the church wants that link to be as strong as possible, and therefore they want those leaders to be respected. Therefore, if they choose to allow women to be ordained, they will vocally support them. Second reason, on ordination. If they have been chosen by their community to become a religious leader, they have to undergo the religious ritual of ordination. Because this is a holy ritual, and a ritual of God, this automatically leads to respect from her followers. And thirdly, on the role of a religious leader in your life. She's the one that guides you in your religious life. She's the one you trust to tell you how to live, and the one that translates the Word of God. All of this means that in communities that choose for change, women will be respected. After centuries of discrimination, women will finally be able to claim the place they deserve in the most important institution in their lives. The impact of this was perfectly illustrated by Halima Hussein, who was a young woman when she saw a female imam for the first time. She said, "I remember thinking, whoa, I can just go up to her and talk to her and hug her if I want. I was in floods of tears and told her, thank you."
The first proposition team spent 8 minutes once. I thank the first proposition speaker for their debate. And now to open the case for the opposition, I call on Kesha.
Ladies and gentlemen, Team Netherlands' policy is a symbolic one that does not truly care for outcomes of women. They only care for governments being able to get their hands out of the pool and not actually care about where women are the most oppressed in the most conservative societies where they say it's a wash. Team Netherlands need to do better in explaining why they are going to get legitimate, tangible change for women within these religions. We're going to tell you that their marginal benefit isn't even there on two main grounds. Firstly, why you fundamentally hurt female empowerment, and secondly, why this is overreach of state power. But before we do that, right, we need to hold up and we need a better definition of what religious institutions are, because they fundamentally gloss over. If they want to define religious institutions as being simply churches and mosques, they fundamentally neglect all of the other good things that these religious institutions do, and all of the other good things like the soup kitchens which are affiliated towards these institutions do, which very often get their money directly from churches and mosques. However, if they want to define it as everything, then we say that the harm that they're going to do to our poor, vulnerable people means that their marginal benefit is simply washed out. I have three main points of contention in this particular team proposition's case. Firstly, on their model, right? The idea that they were willing to very quickly say that the ones that don't get tax-exempt status, they're not part of the debate. Hold up, right? We say that in these particular places is where side propositions policy is needed the most, because under their particular area, this is where the traditionalists hold the most power. This is where women have imbibed the belief that they will never be able to represent God's will. I'm going to be telling you my substantive why in those particular areas you receive no change, why you hurt women empowerment, but we think in those particular areas, team propositions policy is something that they are unwilling to engage in and explain why they do any benefit over there, which means that they're willing to help leave out a lot of vulnerable people. The second question I'm going to be asking, what exactly is the ethos of tax, right? And this is something that was really funny, because Netherlands came up here and they told us that tax exemption was a tool and a privilege used by the state to specifically indoctrinate individuals and engineer beliefs. We think that that is fundamentally abhorrent and immoral. Why so? Firstly, right, we think that very often this is not a direct funding of things like extreme misogyny, but rather funding of the massive benefits that churches and religious institutions do. The fact that in the US, Catholic churches provide for 10 million poor people. The fact that 83% of religious institutions in America spend an average of $1,500 US on poor individuals, on things like soup kitchens, on things like food pantries. Under their side of the house, it's not good enough for them to say that the government can easily replace this, because the government has not been doing this, and that's exactly why religious institutions have taken their place. The second response is that the very fact that they're willing to say that the state should be able to pick and choose what morals they want their citizens to believe in is when we tell you that that is a massive overreach of state power. There is a side that will potentially even give tax-exempt status to those who are very patriotic and actively tax individuals who do not believe in state values. Under their side, we'd ask them, because equality is a state value, whether you pressure religions to actively encourage and recognize other religious institutions and see that all religions are equal, because equality is a state value too. This is fundamentally important because we think that their version of tax-exempt status is illegitimate. Secondly, what exactly is the effect of the solution? This was something that they completely quite glossed over. They said that more empowerment will lead to better visibility and things like that. The whole argument was hung on the fact that they actually get benefits. Notice that they never engaged with the fact what exactly would these individuals be espousing, or what would these women do. That's something that I'll be telling you in my substantive why what the women that they want will not be the ones that help their particular side. But second of all, right, we say that under their very own context, if discrimination is such an important to the, and so inherent to their ideology, why would they ever change? We think that there's a problem-solution context gap under their side of the house that they need to engage with. Okay, this allows me to perfectly move on to my stats, right? To the first point, right? Why, for example, we hurt female empowerment, and secondly, why this is illegitimate. My second speaker will be telling me why we hurt society. So firstly, how exactly do you hurt female empowerment? The thrust of this argument is that it's unacceptable harm, you create unacceptable harm for women in religion, and you hurt the stakeholder that you are trying to help. Why is this the case? Let's first take proposition very best context. The areas in which there is this critical mass growing of momentum and discussions on feminism, where these discussions are slowly starting to translate in religious institutions. However, there are a few traditionalists who actively are against this. We're talking about places in the US where 85% of the Catholics say that female leadership would be illegal. We think in these particular places, you create the worst environment for change under their policy. Because insofar as the state does this particular policy and uses the apparatus of the state to do this, we think that you get a whole outcry. Because on the left, you have liberals who are arguing that the state is victimizing the poor, innocent, religious minorities. Yet on the right, those very traditionalists who hold all the power are saying, look, this is state encroachment coming down on my values. What are they doing? This is not about misogyny, but this is rather me restricting my religious freedom. We think in these particular places, when you create the perfect storm of ideas in which the particular issue of women empowerment simply gets blurred. And that means that women who actively want to advocate for change and women who actually want to do this are scared of coming out because of the fractured public discussion that is happening. We point to the parallel of in Australia when there were active attempts by the gay community to restrict the referendum on gay marriage from happening because they were worried of the sensationalization of the discourse and how the discourse was very likely to turn against them. This is fundamentally important because in their very best scenario, you don't get change. But on the comparative, right, we think on our side of the house, when you get this critical mass of momentum and you slowly relate it to translating it and aiming it to those traditionalists who have the power in a second, sir, is when you think that the very individuals who hold the most power are the ones who need convincing, and we do it under a religious lens. Yes.
Would you fund all religious institutions, no strings attached, regardless of their content?
If they were unable to prove the specific criteria for why they're religion, if they were able to prove they were religious institutions, then yes, we would. We don't think that things like KKK, if that's what you're trying to aim at, is not relevant, and there's nowhere akin to religious institutions. The second context that we're talking about are places like Iran, where there's no critical mass at all. Areas where they say it's a wash on their side, right? We think that these are particular areas where the women who do get elected are going to do things like in a bid to try and seem as if they're legitimate towards the community, or legitimate to the incredibly traditional and conservative community, are going to try and espouse rhetoric that are against women development. Things like, for example, anti-birth control or anti-abortion. In these particular places that Team Netherlands are unwilling to talk about or engage in, is when you get the subconscious buying from women all around, but also you get the landed clergy can come down and say that, look, this is not an issue of misogyny, but rather it's an issue of God laying down their will. Women, in fact, like these particular policies. This is why this area hurts them so much. This is why they need to engage with them. On the comparative, right, we think that female empowerment is most important here. In fact, a study done showed that 1 in 10 fundamentalist religions where women were slowly starting to believe feminism said that solidarity was first that was important to start to gain these particular discussions. Okay, secondly, why is it principally abhorrent for them to do this? The thrust of this argument is that they completely ignore the reason for tax-exempt status, and secondly, why it's a massive overreach of state power. First, we think that the state engineering their very own values and using the apparatus of the state to create particular beliefs is one that is illegitimate. In the same way that we wouldn't deprive tax-exempt status for a single mom who's on dependency subsidies because she perhaps believes in things like conservative beliefs, or she is anti-abortion for her daughter, is the same way that we say that society should recognize that society and the state is neutral to allow individuals to flourish individually. But second of all, right, we think that tax is a direct assault on people's property. The fact that very often individuals donate towards religious institutions because they want to recognize the massive good that they're doing and do not want their income to be taxed because they want them to try to facilitate and funnel through this good. The idea of giving through donations or all of the inheritance that you have, the idea of giving land, we think that of these particular individuals, you're directly assaulting their property. Team proposition still needs to clarify why they're unwilling to let out such a big stakeholder in today's debate, but also they need to clarify which sort of religious institution they're talking about. We think that I'm incredibly proud to oppose. Thank you.
The first speaker from the opposition team spent 8 minutes 13 seconds. I thank the first opposition speaker for their speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, today Team Opposition makes a fundamental strategic mistake at the point where they fail to engage with the principal line of discrimination. In my speech, I am going to talk about 3 things and then prove why Team Opposition therefore loses this debate. First of all, I'm going to talk about the principle of this idea of discrimination versus religious freedom. Second of all, I'm going to talk about this idea of how it affects women. And third of all, I'm going to talk about my own constructive, which is why the social services provided by the church in the status quo are going to continue to exist. So, first of all, what we tell you very clearly from the onset of our debate is that equality is extremely important, and at the point where we equally contribute, women and men deserve the same rights, and therefore we cannot fund discrimination. Then, Team Opposition really fails to engage with this, but only really says, well, the funding only also funds charities, so it's not like we're only funding discrimination. But second of all, the state is not able to decide whether what is good for people. Okay, so we have 2 responses to this. No thanks. First of all, we don't think that they really engage with what we tell you, right? Because at the point where we say that every single individual pays taxes within a state and contributes equally to how that state allocates their funds, it is illegitimate to then appoint that to specific groups that then discriminate discriminate against women. They didn't tell us why this is legitimate, and they have to do so in order to continue this debate. But second of all, to tell you, it's very ignorant of them to on the one hand say that we're not funding discrimination, but on the other hand say we are funding charities, right? We think at the point where all the money goes to these churches and they decide how to allocate it, it's not as though this is only going to good things that are helping people, right? But then, second of all, basically, we think that the state, in many ways, does have a sort of ability to decide whether or not, where money goes, right? We tell you at the point where every single individual in the state needs to be represented, there are certain things that are objectively good. For example, we also say that we fund green energy and help give them tax exemptions rather than other types of energy, because we think as a state, everyone equally decides that that is a good thing. We think that that is the same thing with gender equality, something they fail to engage with. But then what they tell us from their own principle reasoning is that we infringe on a certain inherent freedom of religion because we don't give them the churches and their religions. Okay, we have three responses to this. No, thank you. First of all, we think that we limit religion all the time, in the point that we abide by the values of a certain state. For example, while certain religious books might say that honor killings are an essential part of religion, we as a state decide that this is illegitimate and therefore don't do it. But second of all, we think that we have absolutely no obligation to fund these religions at the point where this is a passive right. Our first speaker elaborately explains that we don't need to subsidize, for example, trips to Mecca or luxury items within a church, but simply give them the freedom to have these values. They don't explain why we have to. No, thank you. But third of all, we think that this is only a very small limit on the freedom of religion at the point where we still think that these churches can exist, right? We tell you that in order to practice a religion, you need perhaps a physical space, a person like a priest or an imam, and a community to share your ideas in. We really don't think that at the point where a church is cut by 35% of taxes, they are unable to provide these very basic services. They don't explain why that is true under our set of accounts. And therefore, we already take this principle of faith. But then practically, what team opposition tells you within this debate is that women are going to be afraid to speak up and therefore not talk about certain issues. Okay, so we have four responses to this, but I'll take it away.
Moving forward with the principle of equality, would you sanction religious institutions that refuse to recognize other religions as equally legitimate?
Okay, well, what we think is we're basically simply not funding them with state money, right? We're not saying we need to actively harm their values. We're simply saying we're not putting public money into this. That's this debate. Okay, so basically what they tell you practically, right, is we're making it worse for women. Four responses. First of all, we tell you women are very likely to speak up at the point where these churches are actively choosing to create that change. Where the kind of content we're talking about are quite progressive and we see this kind of movement, it's very likely that these women will still be able to speak up. But second of all, we already see this happening in the status quo. My first speaker gives elaborate examples. So for example, where 50% of Christian churches are already ordaining women, we don't see then why this is going to be actively worse in that scenario, right? But then we tell you that even if there are some people who aren't going to enjoy this in the first instance, we see that they're still going to be accepted for three reasons. We give you three mechanisms. First of all, the church has an extremely large incentive to make sure that these people are accepted because that is how they keep their followers and their religion is practiced best. Second of all, we tell you that ordination is a holy process and therefore inherently respected. And third of all, we tell you that these women are going to be extremely successful in these services and therefore going to prove that they, yes, can do it and therefore people are going to accept them. But fourth of all, we tell you it's extremely unlikely that they're going to be blaming specific women in their community even if they have a tax cut, right? Because they talk about conservative groups here. And we tell you, even in the churches that are going to have less money, it's extremely unlikely that they're going to target those specific women. Why? Because it's like the state is imposing something on them, not the women within that community. It's very likely that in those instances, the women in themselves are also going to inherently not agree with that. Therefore, we think it's very unlikely that suddenly these conservative communities are going to get that much worse. We don't really see why that is true and they have to explain that. So on to my own construction, which is why the social services provided by the church are going to continue existing even for the religious institutes that do not change. First of all, why do religious institutes have the means to continue providing social services? We tell you that religious institutes only spend about 12 to 15% of their budget on these services. That is a relatively small amount of money that is easily compensated by other types of things. For example, we see that most of the money is going to organizational budgets, or spending on luxury items such as art collections or church decors. We think that therefore means that they do indeed have the means to provide these services, and it is a question of whether they want to. But then why do we think that these churches actually want to provide these services, even with a tax cut? We have 3 reasons here. First of all, we think that the maintenance is relatively cheap because we already see that this infrastructure and the organization is in place. We tell you at the point where they've already invested in the building and the staff, it's highly unlikely that they're going to walk away from that investment at the point where they need to keep paying, for example, a teacher. We think that that's relatively cheap. But second of all, we tell you that this is a core aspect of every single religion. Within Christianity, 10% of one's income must go to charity. But we think that this is even more true for religious leaders who are trying to fulfill that obligation to God. And third of all, we tell you that they need to provide these services to keep their followers active, right? Because in many situations, there's a competition between churches and religions. And in order to keep these people interested, they need to provide those services. But even if not, we tell you that our model that we can use that tax money from these churches to actually compensate for the services not provided by these churches anymore. So basically what this means at the end is that we give them the services that they need, but we also don't directly use people's money to fund discrimination. And we tell Team Opposition that they have to engage with this debate in order to win. We beg you to propose.
The second speaker from the proposition team spent 8 minutes. I thank the second proposition for the speech. And now to continue the case for the opposition, I call upon Sophie.
Discrimination isn't bad just because on principle it is wrong. Discrimination is bad because it causes active harms on outcome to people's lives, and so insofar as we refuse to deal with the substantive analysis on why they make women's lives actively worse, and insofar as they don't actually believe in their own principle when they say discrimination is wrong, supporting it is wrong, but religious freedom is still important, we say that is the point at which they have lost today's debate. I'm going to look at this case in 3 main ways. First, I'm looking at the moral duty of states. Second of all, looking at who best empowers women, and third, who best helps society. My extension will then further go on to directly clash with their substantive material on services and benefits. First idea, what is the moral duty of government? We think this is a side that doesn't believe in their own principle, that states shouldn't support discrimination. Because in the very same case, they say, well, we still support freedom of religion, so if you can afford to pay, and you can pay to discriminate, that's okay, because you made the choice to keep on discriminating, and because you could pay, that was legitimate. So they can't actually say that states have principal justification and an obligation to say that discrimination is wrong insofar as they allow discrimination to occur when churches can afford to pay, when donations come out from other extremist actors to support these churches and keep them alive. Secondly, they can't support freedom of religion either, when we told you the outcome they create is when you don't allow churches to stay afloat. Because understand that many of these churches are only surviving based on the exemptions from government. The idea that the extensive services they provide to society are run at a loss because they are free. The idea that many of these churches are built upon very valuable historical pieces of land that is incredibly expensive when you tax it as property. That's why the Anglican Church is estimated to be able to be inserted to completely shut down by the UK Ministry of Revenue if you remove tax exemption because they run services at a loss for the good of society. To that extent, they can't in the same speech say, we support freedom of religion, but if you go under for having wrong beliefs, that's okay, because then your religion isn't important. We think that is principally abhorrent. We ask them a very simple question. If the duty of the state with the values of society? And if equality, for example, is a merit that we should all support, as in the equality of religions, why would they not pressure states, for example, to actively condemn other religions, or to fail to condemn rather, and say all other religions are equal? The principal line that we gave you is that tax is not a mechanism by which you influence the values of society and the values of religion. Why? First, we told you that these religions provide incredible goods that outweigh the benefits. In the same way that the military, for example, is actively subsidized by the state, despite having sometimes misogynistic tendencies, it's because it provides overwhelming benefits at large and inherently by keeping society safe. By their own principle, they would not subsidize or not even pay for the military because sometimes it's sexist for women. Second, we told you that states never arbitrate moral good, but only limitate excessively negative behavior. So we can, for example, say that you're not allowed to molest a child because that is a criminal act. But you can't say that we can tell you how to raise children, we can tell you how to be good to children inherently. To the extent, for example, that states do not ever withdraw tax breaks from single moms who tell their daughters they cannot be president, to the same extent you cannot say that I take away your tax break because you did something that was immoral and not aligned with their values. Tax is there to provide practical outcomes that are important for the functioning of society and is not a principled way to enforce the moral codes of our state. So we think the principle in this debate has gone to side opposition. Second, who best empowers women? They give us a context where we already ordained, so there's no problem. This is not part of the debate. If you already ordained women, you are not actively refusing, so it's completely irrelevant already. So let's look at the actual context, where churches are actively refusing to ordain female priests. The first thing they tell us is that the church must stand behind you. No analysis why. If you were coerced by the threat of either shutting down or appointing women, in what way is that genuine change? In what way are you going to actually appoint women and stand behind them when the leadership and the rights of these women is what's stopping you from being able to be free and stopping you from being able to exercise your religion? This is exactly the kind of backlash that comes with coercion that we gave you when first speaker. The identity context where there are a battleground of people who support women's rights and people who support religion now have to make that way up between whether or not I want women leadership or I want my religion to be free. Second thing they say is that ordination is a holy process everyone respects. Pope Francis just recently excommunicated women who dare to be ordained by themselves. This is not a religion that respects ordination just because it's a holy process. It's one that values the doctrines that says Jesus never appointed apostles as women, and so we can't do so either because scripture prohibits us from doing so. The third thing they tell us is that we create role models. We tell you to create exactly the worst kind of role models when the women who are appointed by inherently misogynist structures are the women who are never going to challenge orthodoxy. These are the women who are going to be there just by merit of saying we have to have a woman in a position of leadership or it will be forced to shut down as a church. These are exactly the same kind of women who are then going to espouse the exact same kind of rhetoric the church has given them because they need to prove themselves. They have to overcompensate to say that I am not a feminist puppet, I do respect religions, and I can show you this by saying the same thing that men said, saying that abortion is wrong, saying that divorce is unholy. It is especially harmful when women say this, ladies and gentlemen, which is analysis they miss. So men may keep on saying this, but when a woman actively says, look, I don't support abortion either, that is the worst kind of role model to create for the young women who see themselves as being betrayed by the very people they thought would protect them. So they create the worst kinds of role models on their side of the debate. But we think they also need to engage in the analysis that some churches fundamentally won't change, and this is harmful because they create either no benefits or the imposition on churches that means they cannot provide services. They say popular legitimacy is what motivates churches. Ladies and gentlemen, the Catholic Church just pulled out a contract to protect victims of human trafficking because that contract said you must provide condoms. That is a clear example of where churches do not value objective good insofar as more they value scripture and dogma and what sacrament tells them to do. So we think this idea that what the people think of the church is what influences churches is irrelevant. Because if that were the case and everyone is already supporting female leadership, they would have no harms and no need because these churches would be doing so already. So the characterization is false on their side. Third, society. They want to argue by statistics. They say they only give by 12 to 15%. In the same speech, they say churches have an inherent incentive to provide services because that is the only way to gain support and legitimacy. So they don't understand how churches behave. If churches must provide services to be legitimate, why on earth would they be spending excessively on paintings and not providing good for people who think they don't understand the very rational calculus of people in their same speech? Now I'm going to show you why in my speech, like even if governments replace it, this is inherently unnecessary, inherently false, and too bad for society. So, what do we create for society in a way that creates an entirely new kind of social harm? First, the criminal protection for the vulnerable people in today's debate. The Catholic Church runs over 2,500 local agencies to serve over 10 million people every year. This is a crucial part of the safety net given to protect people like soup kitchens and homeless shelters, etc.
When the black community was granted voting rights, a major backlash happened. Yet, we strongly propose this because it's fundamentally illegitimate to deny people voting rights.
States giving voting rights is very different because that is a state doing something versus a state coercing a church to do something that is irrelevant. Okay, so we'll go back to my point. We think that most churches won't change or actually and they changed slowly. The Catholic Church closed down orphanages that they ran rather than give adoption services to gay couples because they valued sacrament over the directive of the state. This is exactly the same kind of context where churches will now actively shut down services if they were coerced. Or if they are just made much poorer, they will have to draw back in the areas where it's the most costly to maintain them. The areas in which, for example, you cannot get proper donations because people are too poor to give them. To this extent, we think that in a scenario where 24% of US parishes are already operating at a loss, at best, they scale back services, at worst, they pull them back completely. Even if they eventually change, the short-term shock is an irreparable harm to millions, and the protection that they get. Say the government says, I'll step in and try to protect them. A government cannot provide religious services. A government can provide protection. These people have formed connections and bonds with the community centers already. There is no scenario in which a government can step in and now say, I can replace the function of the church, because if it is, they don't believe in religious freedom either. So we think the cost is unacceptable in today's debate. But secondly, we think you also undermine feminism as a whole when you create a narrative that you can pay to be misogynistic and that you only stop being misogynist when the threat is closing down. That is exactly the wrong kind of message to be sending to women as a whole, especially women in religious communities. Because they've shown you that their side only cares about the government's keeping its hands clean about actually changing the value and the empowerment of women, they don't actually create any benefits we oppose.
The speaker from the opposition team spent 8 minutes 17 seconds. I thank the second opposition speaker for their speech. For the proposition, I call upon Sonia.
Dear panel, we think that team opposition today is trying to tell us that we are pushing our values as a state on the church. We think that this is far from true. We think that the state has a duty to be neutral and to be good to all of its citizens. We think that therefore the state has a duty not to fund institutions that are discriminating actively against 50% of society, right? We think that this is the crux of our case, where we tell you that there's a huge principled harm to women not being able to access the same bond with God as men. We think this is problematic, and this is something that we as team proposition don't want to stand for. Moreover, we recognize that we have some type of burden to prove to you why we think that women will be treated well within these organizations. We think that we've provided you sufficient constructive material to show you that these women will actually have valuable positions within these churches, right? I'm going to talk about two things in my speech, namely the principle area and why we give tax exemptions and how this weighs up against freedom of religion. And secondly, I'm going to talk to you, no thank you, about the practical area of this debate. Here I'd like to talk to you, zoom in on these progressive churches and specifically this context that we've been trying to talk to you about. And secondly, about the churches that won't change. And thirdly, also a bit about services. But moving on to the principle first, I'd like to ask a very basic question here. Why and when do we give tax exemptions, right? They tell you we give tax exemptions when certain institutions provide goods to society that outweigh the harms. We think this is not the criterion for when we give tax exemptions. I'd like to give you 3 responses on this, but before that I'd like to give you some context, right? The state has limited funds. It's not true that the state can simply give tax exemptions here and there. At the point where you give a religious institution a tax exemption, you can't give a charity, for example, a tax exemption. You don't have unlimited money, right? This is crucial here because Because this means that the state has to choose, and we think that this isn't pushing values, it's just simply a case of money. But 3 responses to their contextualization on tax exemptions. First of all, they give all religious institutions tax exemptions, right? They don't have a calculus, do they provide more good or harm to society? They also give tax exemptions to churches that give nothing to charity, like for example the Mormon church. This is something they stood up and said. They're inconsistent. Secondly, doing some good doesn't always constitute you to have a tax exemption. We think many companies do a lot of good for society by providing people with jobs, by providing people with goods, but we still think that if you provide good to society, it doesn't inherently mean that you need a tax exemption. They've never given you this analysis on why this is true. We think that it is a privilege. Thirdly, we think that states can fund things that are objectively good only. We think there's a minimum threshold that you have to at least pass in order to be eligible for a tax exemption. We think that ordaining women and telling the church that you as a woman have the same position as a man is not that hard of a criterion at the point where we have a state that a society where every single state, even North Korea, accept that women and men are equal, right? We think that this is not something that we're pushing the state's values. We think that equality is not something ridiculous, right? We think we can ask this of these institutions, at least, if they're going to get this privilege, right? And then they tell you no, because the state has to be neutral. The only neutrality the state can have is to give these citizens the right of equal opportunities. Before I move on, yes?
If states can only apply tax exemption to institutions that create objective good, would you withdraw tax exemption from charities that are not deemed to be doing objective good by the values?
Yes, of course. If charities are doing absolutely bad jobs, they're not a good charity, and we don't have to fund that, right? Okay. And then they talk to you about how tax is an assault on property. This is another line that they try to push. We think that, okay, but what does this prove in this debate, right? We think that tax isn't an assault on property, it's a mutual thing between the state and organizations. Why is it true that the tax is an assault on property when it comes to religious institutions, but not when it comes to companies? If it's true that the state has to be neutral, why are we giving the religious institutions a blanket privilege of being neutral of taxes and not having to be assaulted by the state, right? We think this is inherently problematic. Then moving on to freedom of religion. Now, no. We think that freedom of religion is very important here. We think that at the point we want to provide freedom of religion, we tell you this from the beginning. We give you argumentation on why it's still there on our side of the house. But they still try to push to you that we coerce churches into closing and into changing. We think there's no actual coercion here, right? 3 responses to their line. First of all, we think that many churches don't actually have to close. They might not have as much money, but they still have at least the room for a prayer room. They still have people who are passionate about their religion and will want to spread it. No, thank you. Secondly, we still think that even if there's no actual space, you can still believe in what you do, and we think that this is not something that the state will infringe upon ever, right? Thirdly, look, we think that church is not an active right. In the status quo, if they have a church that is going bankrupt and doesn't have money because they're spending it all on something else, they don't say, let's go ahead and make sure you're not going bankrupt by paying them actively to keep upholding themselves, right? We don't pay people to go to Mecca. We've told you from the beginning that this is not an active right, and therefore we don't have a duty to actually make sure that churches keep insisting, but we have the duty for people to keep believing, and we think that this is a fundamental distinction that they refuse to recognize. Now I'd like to move on to the practical clash. First, on progressive churches. Okay, what they tell you on this is that momentum will be hampered. They say that there is momentum, they recognize there is momentum, but it will be hampered because there will be some type of backlash against women, and therefore women won't feel like they can speak their mind. 2 responses. First of all, the fact that there is momentum means that there's no huge infringement of the state, right? So this means that they won't feel extremely assaulted in the first place. If they already are kind of have the willingness to ordain women, we think that they won't see this as a huge infringement. But we think that the second response here is that there's a structure that is prohibitive to them, right? So we say that in the status quo, they don't have an incentive at all to change that structure. Even if there's progressive mass movements, they're not going to go ahead and say, let's ordain women all out of the blue, right? We think we need to give them that final push. Why is this important? Because they're not likely to change that structure. What is the state doing in this status quo? Actively funding that structure that actively tells women that they can't become a priest. This means that they can't become the mediator between God and society. This means they're actively excluded from one of their basic rights to exercise their religion. Yes?
If there are immediate and objective harms for women in the status quo, why are you not okay with coercing churches to change behavior?
Okay. Look, we think there up to you to change. We're not going to actually force you to change because that's like up to you and what you believe in, right? Okay, how will women be treated? We think that there is a huge incentive to accept them because as a church you have actually this thing where you want to give people as much of a bond with God as possible. By not allowing them to have a good priest, you prohibit them from having that bond. We think therefore a church will prioritize to make this woman as good as possible so people can still access that bond with God. And we also think that it's not true that there's going to be that much of a backlash. Women will be able to speak their mind, therefore, and still talk about things that are really sensitive, and they won't have this incentive to become these conservative maniacs. But then when it comes to churches that don't change, right? We think that churches that don't value objective good are bad, but we decide that support freedom of religion, we think that it's okay. It's the status quo. It's also okay for you to split off from a church to become more conservative. At least we're not funding that, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we're voting proposition today.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are two fundamental tensions within the Dutch case today. The first is this idea that they support the freedom of religion. Yet, we gave you the example of the Anglican Church, which the British government determined would go under without a tax exemption from the government. In this case, to withdraw the tax exemption would be to deny access to religion to those who are Protestant. In this case, would they support the freedom of religion, or would they support their principle? We have yet to hear from them. We also saw this other tension about equality, right? Their whole principle of equality versus the idea that they would allow religions to pay to discriminate, right? Because we told you, right, insofar as they believe these harms are inherent, insofar as they believe that these harms are so great, why do they allow religions to simply pay to continue this discrimination? We never really heard from them why it was acceptable on their side to push equality so hard, while at the same time be willing to allow rich religious institutions to continue to discriminate against women with impunity. They have fallen on both principles that they've tried to put forward today. Moving on, I'm going to analyze this debate through the principle of taxation, the state's role in terms of taxation, and I'm also going to be looking at the practical implications of the motion as it relates to both social services and female empowerment within the church. So let me begin with the principle of taxation, because this is something that the debate really began to revolve around, right? We told you that we give churches tax exemption. One, because they provide essential services to help people who are vulnerable, and two, because they allow people religious access, they allow people to pursue their moral needs, ladies and gentlemen, right? They told you, right, like, oh, will we give, tax exemption to companies that donate to charities under this principle? Yes, we would, and yes, we do, ladies and gentlemen, because insofar as companies do give donations to charities, we do give them tax breaks. This fundamental principle of giving institutions tax breaks for doing services that now the state does not have to do because the church took up that burden, we believe it's fundamentally legitimate to give institutions tax breaks in these instances, right? And they told us that they would take away the tax breaks in cases of absolute bad, ladies and gentlemen. Religious institutions are not doing absolute bad, as you showed me down the bench. Soup kitchens are not an absolute bad. Counseling for women who've been subject to domestic abuse is not an absolute bad. And even preventing females from becoming leaders is not an absolute bad, because they're not actively preventing the religious access of these women, insofar as they still do allow women to take part in the church, insofar as they still do allow women to take a whole host of responsibilities in the church, and very often these women want rather to not become leaders in this church because of the conservative ideology that they have. And I'll be going more into this later on today. But essentially, they never really came back to this principle of why we give tax-exempt status and why it is okay for some churches who are wealthy enough to pay to discriminate against women, because fundamentally that is where their principle falls down. But before I move on to my practical analysis, yes?
Would you fund their religious schools that tell students to read their wives just because it provides education, or for the sake of freedom of religion?
Right, well, if they're telling children to commit a crime, obviously we would clamp down on that. This is irrelevant. Telling women that they can't be priests is not the same as telling you that you can beat your wife. Please. Anyway, moving on to the practical grounds of this debate, right? First, let's look at this idea of social services, right? Fundamentally, what we told you is that the core aspect of religions is to promulgate the word of God. Yes, they do care about social services, and yes, as they themselves told us, religions care a lot about providing good. But insofar as providing good would inhibit their ability to promulgate the word of God reigns supreme for religious institutions, right? We gave you the example of Catholic orphanages in the United Kingdom who shut down rather than allow gay parents to adopt children, right? We also see the example in Africa where the church still refuses to distribute condoms, still refuses to endorse condoms, saying that condoms are a greater evil than AIDS itself, ladies and gentlemen. We see that the church fundamentally is altruistic, but only to the point at which it does not infringe upon their beliefs. So insofar as the state, as they believe its church will continue to give social services, we say that this is not so if giving these social services would result in them having to give up their core beliefs, because what is a church if it is not its beliefs, ladies and gentlemen, right? And then when they give us this line at the beginning of like, oh, if your small church gets shut down because, they don't have funds anymore, why don't you just go to a bigger church, right? I'm glad this didn't come back up again in the debate, because this is absolutely reprehensible, ladies and gentlemen. We allow people to choose their religious denomination. We allow people to choose their beliefs. We don't say, just because your church can't finance itself, oh, you better go find another church and change your beliefs accordingly. This is absolutely abhorrent. Then they want to talk to us about progressives within the church, right? They want to talk about churches that already allow female leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, this is completely irrelevant. They wasted a lot of time on this. This is a motion about churches that refuse to appoint female leaders. If they already do, we have no business talking about them. Then they started shifting more towards these churches where there is support for it, but there are still people who are against it, right? Ladies and gentlemen, they gave us this analysis like, oh, they would appoint female leadership if the state coerced them to do so, because, they're not fundamentally against it, they're just against it because they can afford to be against it. Well, let me give you this analysis, right? If you have a moderate church, which, when its tax exemption is taken away, would need to appoint female leaders to regain its tax exemption and continue its operations, instead of appointing these female leaders, what will happen is that it will get wealthy donors to help finance its ability to continue to deny the state its moral imperative, right? We saw this with the burqa ban in France, when Saudi Arabia and Turkey donated millions and millions of dollars to legal challenges to the burqa ban in courts, because they recognized that they would be willing to fund efforts to protect religious freedom, ladies and gentlemen. So even with the moderate churches, they're unable to do good because wealthy donors will step in and ensure that religious freedom is protected. And if they just want to show us some marginal benefit, we say this is not enough. They can't stand up here today and say like, oh, we make a small good, we do some small amount of good for some women. Why can't they do this, ladies and gentlemen? Because of all the harm they create when all these churches' social services go away, of all the harm they create when they reduce religious access. A marginal benefit is not good enough from proposition today. They need to show us why they create female empowerment within churches across the spectrum. They only show us that mildly empowered women become slightly more empowered. They fundamentally fail in today's debate, because when you weigh it against the harms, it simply isn't worth it, right? And let's talk about the conservative churches. In their first speech, they said it'd be a wash, because if we cut funding or give them funding, nothing will happen on either side. We pressed them on this, and finally we heard some substantive material, right? But fundamentally, the whole idea that you would empower women in these conservative churches is completely nonsensical, right? Because of this idea that essentially, even if you do appoint female leaders within these conservative churches to maintain their support base, right, to maintain their following and maintain their respect within the religion, they will then become the ones who are peddling narratives against women. They will then become the ones who say female leadership is not important. We give you the example of Florence Lee, the first ever Anglican female bishop, who symbolically resigned from her post after being appointed because she believed that it was not a woman's role to be a leader of the church, and she did not see this as demeaning her. She saw this simply as allowing her greater access to God because she did not think that God wanted her to be a leader or a priest in the church. They do not recognize that religious fulfillment means different things to different people, and that for very conservative individuals, religious fulfillment means following the word of God insofar as it even means not being a female priest. Ladies and gentlemen, they've gone down on today's principle. They do not have any practical grounds to stand up on. We take today's debate convincingly.
The third speaker from the opposition speaks spent 8 minutes 29 seconds. Can I invite the opposition speaker for their speech?
What did proposition have to prove in today's debate? More than just saying, we end state complicity. They had to prove why they made things substantively better for women on the ground. Because insofar as they didn't try to fulfill that burden, all the state does is keep their hands clean and become complicit in a whole new kind of harm that perpetuates the entrenchment of negative stereotypes, of disempowerment, of undermining the rights of women. We think that is why their failure to respond to a substantive analysis down the bench of why you make things worse for women rather than just symbolically supporting them is why they lose today's debate. But even on principle, they weren't willing to actually understand and deal with their conception of morality in today's debate. Because they told us from first speaker, there are objective rights and wrongs like discrimination and inequality. But at the same time, it's your choice to choose a religion, what kind of discrimination you do. It's your choice to choose what kind of values are legitimate or not. And we wouldn't ever coerce them because we want to preserve choice even though it is an objective harm and a lack of an objective good for women. So this is a side that didn't believe in either the practicals or their own principle they espouse today. I'm going to look at this debate through two questions. First, what is the right thing for states to do? And second, what is the best thing to do for women? Okay, first idea, what is the right thing to do? Let's consider their conception of tax-exemption. They say it is a privilege to reward social good like green energy or subsidizing charities. We already told you, churches are a form of social good. Churches, at the very minimum, provide you tangible and real access to the religious parts of your identity, and even then, they keep people alive, ladies and gentlemen, in the places where the state has failed. But it's a pretty substantive good already. But the second thing we told you is that even if that were not the case, individual policies of harm do not constitute characterization and the inherent structures of religions. That is why they are not different from corporations, because churches individually provide altruistic benefits on the basis of ideology. The military might be sexist to some people, but that does not mean the state stops funding the military because there are individual acts of sexism, no response for our response from their side of the bench. Second thing we told you is that just conceptually, they're also on the back foot already. States' role in tax exemption is not to shape morality in the same way that we don't withdraw tax breaks from moms who teach their daughters they cannot be president because we don't say you have the wrong moral belief and as such you don't deserve protection. We told you that we only step in for abject and tangible harms like abuse and honor killings, but that is incomparable to the idea of telling a woman, sorry, but you can't be a priest. That is not the same as being beaten, ladies and gentlemen. It is incredibly demeaning for them to suggest that they are the same. We told you that they value good and religious belief in the sense that we now preserve the institutions that actually serve people in a way that governments can't, and they didn't respond to this analysis. Second idea, what is the best thing to do for women? We think that we need to engage the actual context of people who actively refuse, not just the progressive places who already ordain women and therefore are irrelevant already. But even if we take that context, we told you why you derailed progress from the very beginning. That you fractured the discussion and pollute the message of feminist movements by now putting them on the same camp as the people who are saying, I will close down your church, the same camp who said there were no more soup kitchens, the same camp that said you no longer have homeless shelters because we put you under the ground by removing tax exemption. No response to any of this from side proposition. But then we asked you, will they appoint women? We said no. They will not appoint women because they receive donor support, but they also do so because the sacrament is more important than any kind of directive from the state. Example after example of orphanages, of condoms, and all kinds of contraceptive measures, and where they actively refuse to aid trafficking victims because they value the religious doctrine beyond that, shows you why churches don't change and they achieve no benefit. But even if they change, we ask you, who will they appoint? They won't appoint the women who challenge orthodoxy. They will appoint the women who are more submissive and more able to repeat the kind of doctrine, to overcompensate and show that I am not a feminist puppet, I am here as a genuine religious woman. Again, no response to our characterization. If the structures are misogynist, you achieve no substantial change. But fundamentally, we also told you about you undermine women. The idea that the reception to women now is one in which you legitimize the rhetoric of conservative people saying that look at the state encroaching my religion, look at the women who are now backing up the demonic state. We think this is the point at which they undermine any kind of progress that already occurs and make women respond. But the most vulnerable people in this debate are not the educated clergy who will become priests, but the women on the ground who are hurt by the lack of services, hurt by derailing the feminist narrative, hurt by an extension they refuse to deal with, and we think to that extent, they hurt women, they are principally unjust, we oppose this movement.
The last speaker from the opposition will spend 4 minutes, 17 seconds. Apologize for the inconvenience before the turn. And now to conclude the case for the proposition and the debate as a whole, I call upon you.
Our principle was elaborately analyzed, but elegantly simple. We told you that a state cannot discriminate against women, and therefore a state cannot fund institutions that do so. This whole debate can be bottled down to the principles clash, within which will all be the practical points, because team opposition based all their principle on practicals. The only thing I will address in the speech is what is the morally just course of action for the state. Firstly, what did we tell you? Like I already said, given that a state cannot discriminate against women, something they agree with, the state cannot fund institutions that do so. To this we got two responses. Firstly, backlash will happen and therefore discrimination will happen. But when we asked them a POI, or whether they would give black people voting rights even if backlash would happen, they said, no, well the state is different. It shows they agreed with us. Because from the onset of the case, we told you that if a state cannot discriminate, religious institutions cannot use the state's money to discriminate. Because by accepting tax-exempt status, they become an extension of that state. Therefore, that answer on the POI alone lost them the debate. But secondly, they answered the POI problematically. When we asked them whether they would ban religious schools that teach students to be the rights, they said, no, this is a crime. A crime is in essence a fundamental principle. From the onset of our case, I've given you 3 minutes of analysis on why equality between the sexes is a fundamental principle. Because A, reciprocity, and B, choice. To this we've got a no response. What once again shows they don't agree with this. Therefore, this is in essence a crime, ladies and gentlemen, and therefore they agree with us. But then look at what data said, because they brought us 3 vague principles. Firstly, a stimulate can't the state cannot stimulate according to their own beliefs, and you cannot use tax exemptions to do so. That is literally the purpose of tax exemptions, right? You're literally privileging institutions you find useful. But secondly, we do this all the time. When you facilitate green energy, when you subsidize them, you do that at the cost of the fossil fuel industry because the state believes it's good. Therefore, this falls out of the debate. Secondly, they told you, oh, religious institutions are super good and therefore they deserve tax exemptions. No, you are not good at the moment that you are explicitly discriminating against women. But on top of that, Frederic brought a third argument on why that good of social services will still exist. Because A, they still have the means to provide services. Because B, they will keep providing those services. Why? Because 1, infrastructure, 2, the importance of it's an important part of their religion, and 3, members. And even if they don't, then we will use their money to do so. To which we've gotten no response at all. So therefore, the practical side, that principle doesn't stand. On top of that, Sonia told you that the Mormon Church only spends 0.7% of their income on goods. Therefore, they should still fund that. How is it consistent with our principle? And fourthly, there should be a basic minimum of fundamental principle of the equality between the sexes in order to get a tax exemption. Then they try to push, say, another principle on freedom of religion. Because without tax exemptions, they would definitely go bankrupt. From the outset of our case, we've given you 3 responses. Firstly, they would still have enough means. The Catholic Church would still have $243 billion. But secondly, even if they don't, it's a passive right, not an active. They've never engaged with this, and therefore they have never shown why the state has an obligation to fund this. And thirdly, also, we do not allow honor killings, right? The freedom of religion is not absolute, something they tried to claim, but never gave substantial analysis for. And that is problematic. At the end of this debate, one thing is very clear. There is only one team in this debate that is not actively funding explicit discrimination against women, and that is Team Netherlands. And therefore we are proud to propose.